Welcome back to Behavior Change Basics, an introduction to social marketing. We're now on stage 4 of our 12-step planning process. In this video, we're covering both steps 10 and 11, monitoring and evaluating your program. Since these two concepts are intertwined, we'll attack them as one. Now, I know these steps might sound about as exciting as watching paint dry, but trust me, they're essential. Monitoring and evaluation are what tell you if your brilliant plan is actually making a difference, or if you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. So, what's the difference between monitoring and evaluation? Monitoring is what you do during your program. It's like checking your GPS while driving. You want to make sure you're still on the right track before you end up in a cornfield. Evaluation is what you do after the program ends. This is where you ask the big questions. Did you reach your goals? Did people actually change their behavior, or just smile and nod when you asked? Were you on time and on budget? Were there any unexpected consequences, good or bad? Let's start with the most important point in this video. You need to plan your monitoring and evaluation from the beginning. It might seem strange to plan the last steps first, but if you wait until the end to think about monitoring and evaluation, it's like mixing up cookie dough, then realizing you're out of chocolate chips. You need to know what you're measuring, how you'll measure it, and who you're measuring it for, right from the start. Why bother with monitoring and evaluation? That's a good question. Here are a few reasons. 1. To improve next time. Learn from what worked and what didn't. 2. To secure funding. Funders love data. The more impressive your results, the better your chances of getting that grant renewed or having your program included in next year's budget. 3. To make mid-course corrections. Better to adjust midstream than to find out later that your ship was sailing in the wrong direction. 4. To fulfill grant requirements. If a funder asks how things went, you want to do better than shrug and mumble something about good vibes. But most importantly, because you care about your topic and you want to learn how to be as effective as possible at encouraging positive behavior change. When planning how to monitor and evaluate, you need to know your audience. Yep, again, who's going to read your results? Your audience will shape what you measure and how you report it. Funders want to know if their money made a difference. Community leaders care about impact and feasibility for their communities. Your team needs to know what they did well and how to do better next time. So, what should you measure? Break things down into categories. 1. Inputs. These are the resources used, like funding, staff, and volunteers. 2. Outputs. These are the resulting activities and materials, basically what you did. For example, this might be the number of brochures handed out or workshops held. 3. Outcomes. These are changes in knowledge, attitudes, or behaviors. For example, are more people using reusable bags at grocery stores? And finally, impact. This is the bigger picture. Lives saved, habitats protected, communities improved. For example, how much money was saved on emergency room visits for every dollar invested in your safe avocado cutting program? And yes, this is a real problem. In fact, it's so common, surgeons have a name for it. It's called avocado hand. Then, you need to plan how to measure it. Choose your tools wisely. 1. Surveys are good for measuring knowledge and attitudes. For example, in northern Canada, surveys track the impact of subsidies on fresh produce availability. Surveys can be useful, but remember, people aren't always 100% accurate or honest when they respond. 2. Observations are great for tracking behavior because actions speak louder than words. For example, when you ask people if they wash their hands after using the washroom, almost everyone says yes. But if you observe, you'll see that many don't. 3. Trace studies help you measure what's left behind. With trace studies, you don't watch the behavior while it's happening. Instead, you examine the traces afterward. For example, counting doggy poop bags used in parks before and after your campaign can be a valuable measure of program uptake. 4th, epidemiological data is useful for health-related programs. For example, you might monitor flu vaccination rates in different neighborhoods. Tip: Wherever possible, build automatic measurement into your program. Online, use analytics. In person, QR codes work wonders. Reducing the labor hours required for monitoring and evaluating can reduce costs and increase accuracy. For example, in Toronto, sensors monitor bike lane usage to justify the cost of building new lanes. Remember, a point of comparison or benchmark measure is essential. You need a point of comparison or starting point to tell if your program actually made a difference or if something else caused the change. There are 3 common types of comparisons. 1. Before and after. Measure results before your program starts and again after it ends. In Victoria, BC, they tracked plastic waste in the harbor before and after the plastic bag ban. Result? Less plastic, cleaner beaches. 2. With and without. Compare areas with your program to similar areas without it. For example, compare recycling rates in neighborhoods with and without your campaign. 3. Different dosages. Compare different levels of exposure to your program. For example, compare communities that saw your ads once a week to those that saw them daily. Without something to compare to, you have no way of knowing if what you're doing is working or if your program was a success. Take it to the next level by calculating your return on investment (ROI). Funders love ROI. It's the answer to, did we get our money's worth? Here's a simple way to think about it. ROI equals benefits minus cost divided by costs. Here's a simplified example. Let's say your program cost $100 and saved $500 in healthcare costs. You take 500 minus 100 and divide that by 100. For you math phobics, no judgment here, that's an ROI of 400%. Funders will love that. Tips for effective monitoring and evaluation. Be realistic. Measure what you actually can measure. If a metric's too hard to track, find a simpler one. Stay objective. Self-reported data can be biased. Wherever possible, use objective measures like observation or third-party data. Automate where you can. Build in analytics for websites or QR codes for in-person events. Keep it cost-effective. Monitoring is important, but don't let it eat up your whole budget. Stay positive. Highlight successes first, even if things didn't go perfectly. Now, let's turn back to the road crew program to see how they monitored and evaluated their program. Yes, the trusty road crew program, our go-to example. Their goal: reduce drinking and driving among young men in rural Wisconsin. So, what did they measure, and how did they measure it? They measured attitudes by doing phone surveys with the target audience, bar owners, and community leaders. They measured behavior by tracking the number of rides taken and the reduction in alcohol-related car crashes. They measured impact by comparing community expenses, such as police visits to crash sites, emergency room visits, and other community services, before and after the reduction in crashes. They found that an estimated $31 million was saved by reducing the number of car crashes. Their results showed a great return on investment. Total spend, $870,000 US. Cost savings, estimated at $31 million. Conclusion, that's what we call money well spent. Key takeaways for monitoring and evaluation. Plan early. Don't leave it as an afterthought. Measure what matters. Focus on outcomes and impact, not just outputs. Stay objective. Use data that's hard to argue with. Show your work. Funders love seeing the ROI. Keep learning. Use your findings to make the next program even better. Thanks for watching. In our next and final video, we'll wrap up the series. Until then, keep measuring, keep evaluating, and keep pushing for positive change. See you next time.